I'll call this meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is public input. I'll remind you, you have 5 minutes, and I will give you a little bit of a notation when we get about a minute, too. And we have Dr. Martinez, subject matter, customizing democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, staff, vecinos, neighbors, friends, and good evening to all. Thank you very much. Art Martinez, retired university professor, long-time community activist here and prior to coming here almost 45 years ago. I'm here on behalf of the Committee to Promote Democracy. Our committee welcomes this opportunity to revisit, if you will, one of the most important and interesting electoral reforms and issues that has been steadily unfolding over the past few years. Our reference, therefore, is primarily focused upon the steady implementation of the relatively new voter convenience centers, sometimes referred to quickly as the VCCs. Throughout Grant County, certainly, and most of New Mexico. It has been mentioned in a couple of recent editorials, I'm very pleased to say, in the daily press, that Senator Howie Morales is concerned about certain shortcomings regarding the VCCs. And that he intends, and I hope he will do this any day now up there, he intends to call for a formal study of the role of these rather new centers in our state and in our city, of course, county as well, as they relate to voter access, citizen voter access, and citizen voter participation, and what's going on with reference to outcomes. Our senator actually sponsored the 2011 legislation that originally created these VCCs. In any case, our committee, as well as many other people I know who feel the same way we do, but we decided to come forward here openly to express our serious and strong agreement with the concerns and the questions that have been raised by both the media and Senator Morales and other folks with specific reference to the VCCs. Here is a quotation by Senator Morales as it appeared in the Silver City Daily Press. I quote, "The idea was to have as many voting centers or sites as possible. I've seen that there's been a drop in voter participation. We were just discussing that back here. And it's important to me that we have more access to the polls, not less." Unquote. We must, of course, realize that these convenience centers were supposed to have added to the existing traditional precinct-based voting centers. Counties, municipalities, school districts, etc. And they were to be considered and implemented only as a last resort. And the so-called convenience factor was to have primarily benefited the voters and constituents, and secondarily to have provided convenience for the election officials and political representatives, secondarily, as they continue doing their fine work for us. We do believe that although this electoral reform was initially and potentially a good and a well-intentioned concept and innovation, in our estimation, it has nonetheless on some occasions lacked proper implementation and has also fallen short here and there within some New Mexico counties, municipalities, and school districts.
That's 5 minutes.
1 minute?
Just wrap up. That was
Okay.
very quickly.
Okay. Therefore, our committee concludes that we must now return to the administrative drawing boards and certainly to the legislative think tanks and improve upon the performance and the outcomes of these initial electoral reforms. We should not accept anything less than this. As we continue to improve upon the type of democracy we desire for all of our folks, todos de nuestra gente. Thank you very much for this opportunity to all of you.
Next item on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Betson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that last week I was up in Santa Fe attending the Governor's Prayer Breakfast and had the opportunity to stop by the New Mexico Municipal League and speak with Bill Fulgenetti, who's our executive director, about how things are progressing with various bills that will affect municipalities. And it was a really great conversation, and I know that our staff here at the town of Silver City, as well as I know the mayor and the councilors, we are tracking that legislation, and hopefully when it comes to a point where it moves to a certain space that we can actually have information up on our website about what, do we have that up yet? No, about legislation that will affect the town and what citizens can do. And that's one of the things that would come out of the the January 22nd conversations with the councilor for District 1, that people would like to be able to assist us with anything that may in some way be a detriment to the municipality or something that would definitely help us. So hopefully there'll be a time when we'll get to that point as we're entering into I think it is more than the halfway point right now. So the last day to drop bills has already passed, so at this point they should be moving forward a little bit more quickly. And on Tuesday, I was fortunate enough to attend the Department of Transportation meeting, and I have a feeling that all the other council members may say something about that too. I'd like to thank everyone who came out to the meeting, and I do think that the members of the Department of Transportation that were there did hear us. I know that I think all of the councilors went up and at some point individually spoke with different people from the DOT, and I know that in one of the conversations I had, the individual who was tasked with intersections and things like that, planning for that, she had mentioned that she had been given this planning and scope of work, and she came in midway on it. So she did circle the intersection that we've been concerned about, which is Ridge Road, Highway 90, and Cooper Street. so that they'll look at that and determine, I hope, prior to the actual closure of the bridge, that they'll actually put something up there in terms of a portable light, like I mentioned last week at the town council meeting. You know, before anything bad happens at that intersection. I did say I'm a former Girl Scout, and our motto is be prepared, not wait till something happens and then try to fix it. So I think that all in all, working with Mr. Pena, Peter Pena was there, but working with the town, the county, and closely with the Department of Transportation, and listening to the concerns of the residents of Silver City, I think that we will be able to fly through this and manage to deal with a bridge closure for 7 months and hopefully not impact too many businesses. So they seemed very receptive, and so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Raymond Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start off with thanking Chief Reynolds, thanking Officer Woods and Officer Click, who came and spoke at some Southwest New Mexico Green Chamber events as part of the community engagement, and that really felt good and was much appreciated. I want to echo Councilor Edison's comments about the New Mexico Department of Transportation meeting. I think all of us, all of the councilors were there, and a number of people from the town staff, a lot of us. And I just want to assure everyone that I got the personal cell phone numbers of Brian Torres, the project manager, Jose Martinez, the technical supervisor, and Philly Castorena, the district engineer. We can call them up on their phones. I want to ask everyone to, as you're looking at your March calendars, to maybe hold 2 dates. One would be March 11th, where there's going to be a community meeting with the Gila Forest Service. They're beginning their strategic planning, and here we are, right on the edge of the Gila Forest, and we really ought to be involved in that discussion. So it will be at the Grant County Conference Center, and I put it on my calendar, and I encourage you to put it on yours. And I also encourage everyone to put March 18th on their calendar. That will be another conversation with counselors. I'm calling it Conversation with Counselors and Colleagues, and it is going to be a hot topic. I know what it is, and I will announce it later on for everyone. And it will be, again, Wednesday, March 18th, from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Western New Mexico University Memorial Building. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. We're proud, and I'm proud of Silver City having a lot of volunteers, even the county. We, as councilors, also do a lot of volunteering, and I would like for you to recognize the council that do the volunteering in serving you people, also with the mayor. Keep in mind that we try our best to do things correctly, and not every decision that we make is going to be popular. Some people are going to like it, and some people are not going to like it. Let's all work together, and hopefully we can. Thank you.
Councilor Connell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to encourage the community to start coming to our meetings and giving us their input. I know that there are roughly 10,000 people on a certain Facebook page that has a lot of opinions about what's going on in town, but none of those people come to any of us and let us know what they're thinking. So if they could do that, you could do that if you're some of the members of the audience, that would be really great, because if we hear it here in this building, it's a lot easier to act on that than it is to wonder if you're really a resident of Silver City if you're on Facebook. Another thing is, I'm hoping that maybe the next meeting or the meeting after that, we can have a conversation about the plastic bag ordinance. It's still something I think that we all support very much, but it's not working quite as well as it probably should. So maybe if we can get Mr. Timmy to come in and let us know how things are going from his standpoint and review that, I think it would be a really good idea. And then the last thing is, I'm this week going to, actually on Monday, going to attend the New Mexico Governor's Commission on Disability Conference for Americans with Disabilities and International Building Code Accessibility. So hopefully I can come back with some good stuff to get Silver City a little bit more accessible for disabled people. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'd just like to play off a little bit of what Councilor Kano mentioned. You know, there is a lot of social media that is real effective at getting a lot of news out, and it's important. It's a good thing. But in many cases, not only do we find out haphazardly or in piecemeal, only one of us may read a certain web page or follow a certain link that gives us information, but that also goes for staff. So when people do not give their comments to us in this setting, not only do we lose the continuity of all of us hearing that same message, but our staff also doesn't hear that message. So there's really not a good building block for improvement. If there are concerns in town, it creates a big struggle for staff to start saying, well, how can we fix that at the staff level? How can we promote that? How can we recommend to the council to take different actions and such? So I do appreciate those comments, because just like Dr. Martinez today and many people in the past, oftentimes we don't even know there's an issue till they come in and talk to us, and that is a very important piece of government, especially in a republic like we have. Does anybody need round two? All righty. Moving on to approval of minutes. Councilor Betterson.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular town council meeting of February 10th, 2015.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Amos Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
We have a motion second to approve the minutes of the regular town council meeting on February 10th, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to staff reports. Any? Ann?
Well, like Councilor Amon Smith said, I have a few dates for people to mark also. There's some dates in February. Our absentee and early voting ends on February 27th, so folks can come into City Hall and vote early until that date. It's a real easy process. It's pretty quick, so I encourage people to come on in. The actual election day is March 3rd, so please mark your calendars for that. It's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it will be held at our voting convenience center at the Silver City Women's Club for Districts 1 and District 3 to elect counselors in both those districts. I think that's it, unless y'all have any questions about our election.
Questions for Ann? Any other staff reports? Mr. Marshall? Chief?
Do you have any report? Nobody else out there.
You're it if you have anything.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Besson asked me to speak a little bit on the legislation that's going on and some of the actions. The legislation that the council passed a resolution in support of on basically the predatory lending. Not all of the legislators are feeling the same way that it is predatory. It's become a very partisan issue, and they just recently tabled one bill. One of the votes was to table that bill in favor of his own bill that is coming up still. So it's still alive, but I can reassure you that it will not be an easy battle. There's been some impassioned pleas against it. Not all legislation nor testimony has to be factual or actually represent a true situation. So this one tends to be drawing some of that testimony. The election bill for one candidate and no questions was tabled. And the big issue with that is, in Silver City, if you're a write-in, you have to file as a write-in a week after the regular filing date. That is not the case throughout the state. So there was some debate regarding that bill on actually restricting people from placing a write-in candidate that's not filed. Once again, I don't know how factual that might be, but it came from a very powerful legislator. There's been an interesting discussion this year, and I think this is really important to discuss. Over the years, we've slowly seen the preemption of local authority being taken away by the state legislature. And this year, this seems to be a tool that they're using to resist some bills and stating that the Constitution of the state, it clearly states that authority should be left at the local level when possible. And that has been debated over and over and over this year in the legislature, which is very good to hear that they're actually considering that. And hopefully with that discussion and the repeated debates, we will see a little bit, maybe a little less of removal from the local government. Of course, they can also not make the argument when they choose not to. But it is actually very good to see it broadly discussed, and now more people up there are aware of it and aware that it is a constitutional issue. I also think that potentially opens up some challenges to some legislation in the court system that may not have been as easy in the past. The House Bill 2 has come out of House Appropriations, and there is $100,000 sitting in House Bill 2 right now for the inmate support, and that's an important allocation for our detention center. As you know, our detention bills are quite high, and the goal is to provide them support and return them to society in a manner that they can be productive and not utilizing a revolving door. And that is the goal of that program. So it would be a demonstration project in Grant County. We've also had, I'm sure you've seen the numerous Interstate Stream Commission bills on the Arizona water settlement. There's a multitude of bills. Some of them are message bills. Some of them, there is intent. And none of them have actually moved anywhere rapidly. So now that we're in the last 29 days of the session, we'll be keeping a very close eye on them. And we've also had numerous meetings with the staff of the Interstate Stream Commission and concerning the Grant County Water Commission's project, which the town has supported. And the Grant County Water Commission chair will be presenting to the ISC next Thursday regarding that project. And the chair happens to be Mr. Brown. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Marshall? Thank you. No other staff reports? Everybody ready for a public meeting? Public hearing? Next on the agenda is a public hearing entitled Approval, Disapproval of a Restaurant Beer and Wine License with On-Premise Consumption Only, License Application Number 934972, Applicant Name Q's Southern Bistro LLC, DBA Fry House, Proposed Location 601 North Bullard Street, Suite C, Silver City, New Mexico 88061. The Town Council will serve as the hearing board, and I, as mayor, will be the presiding officer. Have any members of this hearing board had ex parte discussions with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communications from any party to this case?
No, sir.
You are all qualified. Will all parties and witnesses intending to testify, including those staff members who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise and come to the podium to be sworn in by the town clerk. If you have not been sworn, you will not be permitted to testify or otherwise participate in this hearing.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ronald Quintana,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that the testimony I am about to give
that the testimony I am about to give
in the matter before this council
in the matter before this council
is the truth, the whole truth,
is the truth, the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth,
under penalty of perjury.
under penalty of perjury.
Thank you.
Well, based on our ordinance, I do need to announce the procedure, even though we have one witness testified, so I will truncate it a little bit. The applicant will present their case. Next will come witnesses in support of applicant's case. The applicant's staff or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the applicant if that concludes its case in chief, and states that the proponent and its witnesses will remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board, by staff, or by opponents to the appeal, to the application. At the close of the testimony of the application, the presiding officer will ask the applicant, is there anything else you wish to be reflected in the record? At this point, Mr. Quintana, present your case.
Well, again, my name is Ronald Quintana, and I'm representing Q Southern Bistro LLC, and the business that we are trying to get a beer and wine license for is called Fry House, which is a chicken wing, per se, like a wing stop. I don't know if y'all are familiar with what a wing stop is, but it's just a restaurant that we're trying to put downtown. Sports, play a lot of sports and stuff like that. 16 different flavors of wings, 14 different flavors of French fries. We're going to be doing deep fried chicken as well. We'll be doing potato salad, macaroni salad, everything to be dine-in or carry-out, as well as a couple of different sandwiches, hamburgers, Philly cheesesteak sandwich, buffalo shrimp, oysters on the half shell, specials and stuff like that. So the best way I like to put it is it would be similar to if you were to look up Wingstop, which is a small Texas franchise, and I hate to refer it like this, but I guess Buffalo Wild Wings and something like that, but on a much smaller level, but to where everything would be on paper boats where they could come in and, just in and out real quick, but as well as if they wanted to stay there and watch a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game or tennis or golf. There's about 14 different flat screen TVs that we want to put up in the building. It's a small building, but that's really what I wanted, just because I don't want it to be too big. And the proposed area of where we are putting it is, there is a church right behind, but I've talked to Father Moore, and that's one of the first things that I did, and I asked him if he would be opposed to it. He said absolutely not, that he'd probably be frequenting, probably be going a lot and, going and showing support. And I just think that with what we're trying to do is it would bring down, I'm just trying to draw and bring more business downtown, to the historical part of Silver City, and that's, I think, what we're trying to do would fit right in. And we've actually had a lot of people asking us, when are you going to open, when are you going to open? And it's just taking time and want to make sure when we do it right. So that's pretty much a brief description of what we're doing.
Is there any questions for Mr. Quintana? Councilor Amos Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Quintana. I'm looking forward to having some deep fried chicken. I do have a question. I understand that you'll be selling, if you get this license approved, you'll be selling alcoholic beverages, but that's for consumption only in the restaurant?
Yes.
How are you going to keep people from walking out and walk away?
The same way that we do it at our restaurant currently. We don't allow anybody to go outside the front doors and stuff like that. did talk to one of the landlords to where there is the courtyard area, to where maybe later on, once we got things flowing, and got a better handle of what we're doing in the inside, to do maybe a small little courtyard thing to where it could benefit, where if people wanted to sit out there in that area, where they could take out, the wings or their Philly cheesesteak sandwich or their deep fried chicken, whatever that they wanted to do, and to have a beverage out there. But that's really not my concern, as far as that's not I say not concerned. It's not important to me right now to actually push for that. I just want to make sure that the inside, nothing goes better than cold beer and some hot wings, and all the recipes that we are doing, where it's not the same recipes that we're using at our current restaurant down there at Q's. Everything's just different recipes. I actually recruited some cooks to come from Las Cruces to move down here, and they're worked at Wingstop and Buffalo Wild Wings. So it's going to be totally different concepts and stuff like that. So I'm actually really excited about it. But yeah, to answer your question, just basically make sure our staff is attentive to not be taking any drinks out to the courtyard.
Okay. So you actually recruited people to move to Silver City, or to just visit?
To move. I have about three.
Bless you.
Thanks. We have about three cooks that will be coming down here and moving down here, and to give it a try. And like I tell them, I personally love Silver City, and I was born and raised in Las Cruces, but I love it here, and I told them that it's just a different quality of living and everything, and I think that they'd enjoy it too. So, and then we plan on bringing down people as well as from El Paso to be doing promotional work with what we're doing down there too, so especially when we do sporting events and stuff like that. So, especially with some of the semi-pro teams that they have there, to be bringing them down, doing fan day or to give out free autographs and stuff like that.
That's great. One more question, Mr. Mayor. The building that you are planning to be located in is a pretty small building. What's the capacity of
It's
that?
going to be around 40 to 45 people maximum. That's something that I need to get with I forget what, even the fire marshal, Milo, to get with him and see exactly how many people, with what where I've put the chairs and the stuff like that. It's roughly around 45 people, and everything from my measurements, it's up to code. Later on, if we need to expand, which hopefully we do, then I would expand. But for me right now, I think that that's the perfect size. I mean, because even currently with our restaurant that we have right now, we'll have 45 people in there all at once, but still not all the seats are taken, and I'd rather have it where it's packed and people are, has that ambiance of, everyone's having conversation with one another, and it's kind of like the bar Cheers, where everyone comes in and they just everyone gets along and stuff like that. And I just really want to bring something, like I said, down to downtown, especially with even for, the college kids to be going down there more, and just making it kind of more, and everybody at that fact, I should say, not just the college kids, because everybody likes wings.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Scavron, do we need to address a waiver?
Yes, you do.
Okay, and we have the number, everything that we need?
In the motion.
60,
Do you know what that ordinance is, or that code section that we need to address?
for the state statute. 10-60, something.
You can just say pursuant to state statute, and that'll be fine today.
Okay. Does this conclude your case in chief?
Again, I'm really looking forward to opening it, and we're just trying to make it something unique and different that I think Silver City could use. I actually wanted to open this up a while back, and I think it's just perfect timing, and hopefully we'll have it open and everyone will, enjoy what we're doing, and, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. So nothing else to add to the record?
You guys want to know what the logo is, but
Yeah, we'll keep that Is the hearing board prepared to consider this application and render its decision?
Yes.
How does the hearing board decide?
We have to make a motion.
To approve.
I didn't get the pursuant number for the
We don't
waiver.
have it.
You just need to put, it's just a waiver pursuant to state statute. That's all that has to be said, added. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve a restaurant beer and wine license on premises consumption only, liquor application number 934972, applicant name Q's Southern Bistro, LLC, DBA Fry House, proposed location 601 North Bullard Street, Suite C, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061, with a waiver
Pursuant to state.
pursuant to the state.
Councilor Benson?
Go ahead.
Oh, Councilor Kano?
I think the motion is stated, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion, a second for approval of a restaurant beer and wine license with on-premise consumption only, license application number 934972, applicant name Q Southern Bistro LLC, DBA Fry House, proposed location 601 North Bullard Street, Suite C, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061, and with granting a waiver pursuant to state statute. Roll call.
Councilor Kano?
Aye.
Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith? Aye. Councilor Benson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, under unfinished business, discussion and action on recommendation of library board, reference the Fred S. Norton Estate.
Good evening. My name is Ted Lynn. I'm the chair of the Library Board of Trustees, and I'm currently on the foundation board. Before you, you have the resolution that we passed just a few weeks ago. Also, for the foundation board, our secretary is Maureen Craig, and another member is Jim Reynolds. Our president is currently Nick Seibel, and we currently have a local bank account with a little over $20,000 that we've been handling for a number of years, and we are prepared to accept this money from this estate or basically any other contributions to our library foundation so that we can support our local library. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Did you have any comments, Mr. Scavron or Mr. Marshall?
No, sir.
I'd be inclined to recommend moving the money to the Library Foundation. I think it gives a lot more flexibility, and there's it's a better vehicle to have this type of bequest. So I'm inclined to recommend that the money go there. I do want to hopefully convey the idea that we definitely want to ensure that there's a well-established disbursement process with oversight by the library board and input by town staff. And with that, is there any other comments or discussion to be added? Do you believe we need to give any more direction than that? Or do you think Alex can move with that?
I spoke with Alex earlier today, and the option for the town was to take the money and put it into the town's funds as a line item, or allow the foundation to disperse the money with the proper controls. The foundation is an independent entity. It's a 501c3. It will be kept separate from the Board of Trustees, who will have oversight, and then oversight over how to spend the money, but there will be controls in place where money will not be spent without the town manager being involved. And with those checks, and there'll be a letter that will be sent at some point probably by you, to the Board of Trustees, indicating the process for controlling the money, for taking advice of the foundation, and recognizing that the town manager has ultimate say over the dispensing of the money. Along with that, when there are issues where the town manager is planning or agreeing to spend the money, and if it's going to be something fairly significant, I'm sure he will be making you aware of that in his reports.
Deal, I think we have the direction. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent ordinance number 1237, an ordinance adopting a municipal gross receipts tax in the amount of 1/4 of 1% for general fund operations. This is an item that I've been thinking about for the last 5 years, being on the council and as mayor, and this has probably been one of the more difficult things that I've had to deal with, simply because I don't want to increase taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes. The unfortunate reality, and why this has bothered me for so long, is I've known for the last 5 years this has got to happen. In fact, probably the most difficult argument is it's probably a year too late. We've been experiencing the hardships of not bringing this tax forward before. This is one of the tax increments that we've had in our little coffers, with the ability to put forward, and have not just for, in many cases, community philosophical reasons. We've always been opposed as a government entity here in Silver to have taxes just for the sake of building our coffers, building reserve funds. We've always, if we didn't need it, we didn't want to have it. But now, and why I even mentioned why it seems like it's a year too late, over this past year, we could have really used some reserve funds. We run a very tight ship, low reserves, and over this past year, and actually over the past several years, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been struggling with our own success in getting grants and such. Historically, 5 years ago and before that, the state has been extremely good at reimbursing us our grant funds within 30 to 90 days. And that's been relatively palatable to us. We've been able to front many grants, and we've been able to weather that storm for that period of time. But of recent, and very predominantly in the last 4 years, that time frame of float has been closer to 90 days on the good side, and then up to a year on the bad side. And when we are floating grants, and where we have to pay out and then just wait for reimbursement, when we have to wait a year, we're sacrificing other other services. There are our vendors, our service providers, they're having to wait for payment. In many cases, we're just having to do without certain services that we've done with historically because we're not going to put vendors in that situation of waiting for time. So, even though we do eventually get reimbursed, it's created a tremendous juggling act on Alex and on the town staff, finance department in particular, and we need to do something to help that. Also, when I was running for council, I used to always say, I felt like I was in a good position to help us economically position ourselves and during this recession and help us build the infrastructure and get things in place so that help us move out of the recession quicker and efficiently. Well, when you don't have reserves, that doesn't happen. So we've had very little activity and very little ability to improve our community as the recession has started to wane. So even as the economy picks up, we're still lagging everybody else because we are with a pretty weak infrastructure. We have not done the improvements. We have not added anything attractive to help us move forward, and this is hopefully something that will help mitigate that. And this is also a precursor to, in light of the fact that we're probably not going to be getting a fix to hold harmless, this is also going to be the first necessary evil to mitigate that, so that we can not only potentially get improve our cash flow, but also be able to survive the loss of revenue that the hold harmless is going to create. So with that, I fully support us bringing this notice of intent forward to the public so that we have good public discussion over the next month and allow for solicit lots of comments as to the benefits and burdens that this is going to create. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Marshall to add anything from the town side, from the staff side, that I may have missed, and also articulate some of the details here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, Council. Give a little bit of background on taxes and municipal gross receipts taxes from New Mexico. There's 25 increments that municipalities are authorized. Not all municipalities are authorized for all 25. There are some, i.e. Spaceport, that would be a Doniana. The Silver City currently has 11 increments imposed. There's 7 increments in the municipal GRT that are 5.25% and 2 1/8%. Silver City has 6 of them in place. This would be the last increment in the municipal GRT category. There's 9 different categories across the board. Silver City's GRT is 1.5625%. So when you see the 7.75 on your receipt, 1.5625% is actually to the town of Silver City. The county is 1.0625%, and the state is 5.125%. Of that 5.125% is also 1/8 of an increment that was put in place for the hold harmless to pay that. The highest GRT in the state is Santa Fe at 8.8125. The impacts on Silver City, this 0.25% generates $800,000 into the town's general fund with hold harmless reimbursements as they have been in the past. It is $640,000 into the general fund without hold harmless. Every year, at least the next 3 years, we're going to lose $136,000. So it's $136,272, and on and on and on, 400 and something the next year. We've seen a decrease of about $360,000 in general revenue. So when you add the 360, the 136 that we'll lose in hold harmless next year, that puts us back to 496, which leaves us roughly $100,000 to build those reserves or save for the potential additional $136,000 that we will lose the next year. And then on the third year, we will not have that. So this 0.25% basically would bring the town back to revenue neutral after year 2. And when I say revenue neutral, the impact of that is we don't have to cut services. We're able to maintain our police, fire, library, museum, which are all running very minimal at this point. So this is not a way to generate additional services, enhancements of services. The other issue I didn't bring up is we've noticed the gas tax continues to decrease. There's a couple of bills up in Santa Fe right now that some would provide some benefit for that. One of them doesn't provide us any benefit till year 5. So we've seen the condition of our streets. They can use the benefit. So if we're going to subsidize the street repairs out of the general fund, not out of the gas tax, right now there's no money in there to do that. So the state has kind of backed us into a corner, in our opinion, that they control our taxes, they control the increments, they control what the increments can be utilized for, and then they jerk them out and leave us to respond. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Is there any questions? Councilor Bedison?
Mayor, for the 6 years I've been on the council, this is something that we have discussed, both under a former mayor and, of course, our current mayor. And it's also something that has been widely discussed at the New Mexico Municipal League Board of Directors meetings about the impacts of the hold harmless to municipalities, and especially, the 11 that were included in that really will not be made whole. And I know that Manager Brown has brought this before us at the last several, if I believe correctly, budget meetings, when how we would go forward to fix the loss in revenues so that we could continue to offer the services, maintain those services that Mr. Marshall has mentioned, which police, fire, museum, and library, which they all are working at really minimal levels. We don't want to take that away. So yes, it is a necessary evil. Unfortunately, I too am not one to want to pay more taxes or to burden our residents with more taxes. But in order to continue to provide the services that we have, especially quality of life services, it's going to be critical that that this municipal tax, gross receipts tax, goes forward. One comment I do want to make is while the mayor was talking about we don't have reserves, that's not to mean that we don't have the stipulated reserves that are mandated by the state that we always retain. It's just that there's no flexibility. And that's really what it's all about. There's no flexibility to take on something that we know is needed. For instance, Mr. Marshall talked about the roads. I know we did some moving around of increments so that we could do some of the paving, chip sealing and fog sealing that we did earlier this year. It's not just our municipalities having problems with the gas tax, it's the whole state that is, and so that's the reason why so many of our roads are in poor condition. So in order to have some flexibility, this 1/4 of 1% is really going to be critical to the municipality. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at reducing quality of life services. I mean, that's the reality. Not essential services like police and fire, that's where all the money will make sure we go to, but we won't be able to do some of those other things that I think we do so well, and that are part of the reason we all live here. For instance, our library and our museum, they're pretty quality. Both of them are high quality of life services. There's not very many small towns that have an accredited American Alliance of museum, and we do have that. So I'm fully in support of this, even though it's as one would say, a necessary evil, unfortunately. And yes, I think I do agree with the mayor that we're probably about a year too late at this point, because I know that our current gross receipts were actually running less than what was projected. Is it about 4%? Yeah, it's been adjusted from the calculations that the state had done. They did some miscalculations, but the recent information we received is about 4%, a little over 4% down. So, thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
Any other comments? Would anybody, this is going to be, if this NOI passes, it's putting it forward to the public for the next month for comments and discussion. But even before this even passes, is there anybody from the public who wants to speak on this matter? Mr. Martinez?
I want to join those of you and many who are here, I'm sure, and not at the up there discussing this at the moment, and that is that it is certainly I join in sympathy and understand very well why you say it is a necessary evil. It is, indeed. It's one of those things where we're considering that old adage, nothing is more inevitable than death and taxes. And that just seems to be a reality in the administration of government for the people. I understand that very well. Now, I've been thinking about our residents out there as you were speaking, and took down a few notes that I think quite a number of them would want to say to you even this early. And that is that since this is a sales tax, gross receipts, some say, it is a regressive tax, and it will fall on the backs primarily of our lower income residents. Inevitably so. It's becoming much more difficult, people say to me all the time at least, it's more and more difficult to handle yet another tax. The county hit us with one just recently, and we were of the opinion that this might be coming at the municipal level. Many folks have very little disposable income anymore. Things are extremely, I use that word hesitantly, but extremely in hardships. An outrageous decision that is facing many of our neighbors and friends out there is that they're at the point where they're wondering whether they're going to hand over their very scarce dollars. A lot of us who are sitting in here tonight, it isn't easy, as you said, being mayor, to pay more taxes. And you don't take great pleasure, but you understand that it is a necessary evil. But shall we hand over our scarce dollars they are asking toward heating our home, nuestra casa, lo que tenemos aquí, el poco que tenemos, or toward feeding our family? It's come to that for one heck of a lot of people who we know, right? And we have to say these things, though we face it, a necessary evil. Now, I'm going to urge something, and it's just to have you be thinking about the fact that, we have a few thoughts out here on ourselves. Now, we would urge that you either refuse to tax us again, but I believe that you are going to continue moving in that direction, and that you're inclined toward what you have to do, you feel, but that you might think in reference to, instead of a rather hefty, and that's what I call it, a rather hefty 1/4%, that for the time being, until we can figure out other ways to move along and take care of things, that it be reduced to 1/8%, and that would lessen some of the burdens to our people. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public who would like to speak on this subject? Is there any other comments by the council? Councilor Emma Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish that we had other sources of revenue other than gross receipts tax. We have, that it really counts for the large portion of our budget that makes sure that your trash is picked up, and make sure that the water is clean, make sure that the library is open, make sure that fire people respond when there's an emergency. I really wish we had other ways. A friend of mine this last week said, rather than doing gross receipts tax, why don't you just tax those rich people on their property taxes? Well, you know what? We don't have the power to do that as a municipality. We are really limited in what it is that we can do. I wish we had different ways. This is not only a kind of like, for me, feeling like a necessary evil, it feels like an imposed necessary evil from our state and our state legislators, and I wish it was different.
Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with all of the comments made today. There is a possibility that we could lose some jobs from the city. It's a big possibility, and that would hurt even worse. People will be out there without a job. It's like I said earlier, any decision that we make is not going to be very popular with everybody. Sometimes we have to do it in order to survive. And I hope that the people will understand that. Thank you.
Councilor Medicine?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's important to note that at this point, it is a notice of intent, and that if it is approved, it opens up a month-long series of discussions where people can come and talk to us about it, and we can then the council can explain the reasoning behind this. I think one of the most critical things that the mayor said, and that I have said before, especially when the county was seeking to impose the 3/8 hold harmless that they did, is that our municipality and our government in Silver City, we do not impose taxes to raise excess funds. We only do it when it's absolutely necessary for us to continue to provide the current services that we have. Over the 6 years I've been on the council, there have been many changes in order to make sure that we, as a municipality, and all of you, are not subsidizing everyone's water rate. We had to make several changes to that so that what comes in terms of water costs that all of us pay, including myself, is actually going to be able to pay out and maintain the water system. You know, we have fixed costs in terms of personnel and fixed costs in terms of maintenance. So you pay as you use under the water. The same thing with trash. You pay as you throw. And everything we've been doing over the past 6 years has really been in ensuring that our municipality continue as it has in the past with all the services that we offer. This is not going to be for new services, as the mayor and Mr. Marshall said. There's nothing new. We're not going to go out and build a town hall with it or anything like that. This is specifically to ensure that we can continue to maintain the services we have in light of the reductions that we're facing through legislative action at the state level. So, thank you, Mayor.
I'd just like to add just a few comments. One of the things when this, with the hold harmless and some of these discussions that have been created due to that, some of us not increasing tax and reducing service here and still maintaining the old gross receipts tax levels that have historically been done is really a matter of shifting money from local hands to the state hands. And there are many who might argue that that's okay. But even somebody who is really generally opposed at taxes, and my whole profession is premised on trying to have everybody pay the legal minimum. The one thing I do believe in taxes is we want our community's money being held here and being used. So it's the community is pooling their resources together to better their community and not sending it to the state or sending it to the federal government to be determined by people who really don't understand who we are, what we want, or what we need. And so this is another way of us saying, you know what, we want to be, we've determined what the services that our community wants. We've been providing those services, and we want to continue providing those services. We don't want to have to cut those just to maintain the tax the same and relinquish that power to the state to determine what we need. So I am a big, even as anti-tax as I usually am, if there's going to be taxes, it should be controlled by your community, and this would be doing that. I will point out, we do have some mills available to increase property tax, but there has been some concern about doing so. In the county, if you look at the county as a whole and the median income versus the borders of Silver City and the median income inside Silver City, we have a far lower income. So, but yet Silver City provides services in large part to the entire county. So if we increase property taxes, what we're doing is we're getting the lowest income citizens of the county to pay to serve the entire county, in many cases, who have greater income. So that's always been a big stretch, and so even though we still may have to do that in the future if many of these increases don't work to bridge all the gap that we'll end up having, we want to put that off to last. We do not want to be increasing property taxes on those individuals who have less money than our counterparts out in the county. And especially when that's servicing those same individuals. And that affects everybody. We may say, well, it's the wealthier of those citizens, but in many cases, those wealthier citizens are renting to those low-income individuals and would end up increasing their rent. So we always want to be careful. Even though we have some ability to increase property tax, we want to be very careful in doing so, and we want to do that last and only if absolutely necessary. One question, and this might be a question for Alex at the next meeting, maybe Mr. Marshall or Mr. Scavron. If we pass this NOI as it reads today, is there still the potential at a final reading of decreasing that increment if we chose to? If we found that it was better to do 1/8 versus 1/4, is that even a possibility? If we pass this NOI at 1/4%, could we change that to 1/8 a month from now?
Mr. Mayor, Council, the answer is no. The increment is, as I discussed earlier, our increments are very, very specific authorizations by the state legislature. The increment that we have remaining is 1/4%. So if your population is over 45,000, I believe you can cut it. Our population is 10,000, we can't cut it.
Thanks for that information. I will entertain a motion. Councilor Raymond Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the notice of intent on ordinance number 1237, an ordinance adopting a municipal gross receipts tax in the amount of 1/4 of 1%, 0.25%, for general fund operations.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second, for approval of notice of intent ordinance number 1237, an ordinance adopting a municipal gross receipts tax in the amount of 1/4 of 1%, 0.25%, for general fund operations. Is there any further discussion? Do we need a roll call for this?
No, but may I add that we
Yes.
cannot change the content of this ordinance. It's per tax and rev requirements. So the wording has to stay the same.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's go ahead and do a roll call anyways.
Councilor Kano. Aye. Councilor Ray.
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith. Aye. Councilor Benson.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll entertain one more motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Bedison.
I move to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
We have a motion, second, for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.